Welcome to the video, guys. It's taken long enough, but finally the BBC have picked up on the grooming gang petition. Though, given the human malware situation we've got going on, it only made it onto their website. They are yet to report on it either on the TV or on radio as far as I'm aware. Literally, all they're talking about on their main broadcast channels is the human malware situation. Instead, this was briefly on the main page of their website yesterday afternoon before being lost in amongst the endless nonsense that the BBC post. So we'll take a quick look at what they had to say before we go over a Daily Star article that was released on the 10th of March at like 10 PM, but very well hidden in amongst all of the other articles on their website. I'm not entirely sure if it made it onto their actual newspaper or not, but it wasn't easy to find on their website. The BBC's article headlines though, Grooming Gang Research Petition to be considered for parliamentary debate. More than 100,000 people have signed an online petition calling for the release of the Home Office's research into the characteristics of grooming gangs, which is something I've literally been going on about all week now. Finally, the BBC pick it up. The government has refused to release the information, telling the Independent it was not in the public's interest to do so, even though, as I said in my video last night, the Home Office stated that the grooming gang convicts should have their British citizenship stripped from them because it's in the public's interest to do so, since they committed such heinous and organised crimes, clearly contradicting what they have said there about the report not being in the public's interest. It continues, the issue will now be considered for a debate in Parliament, having passed the required number of signatures. Which is the reason why I've sent letters to my MP, and I hope most of you have, asking them to press for this to be debated. The Home Office said work on the issue was ongoing. Yeah, of course it is, that's what you always say when you're doing nothing. In 2018, the then Home Secretary Sajid Javid ordered research into the characteristics and context of gangs abusing children, arguing that ignoring such issues as ethnicity is more likely to fuel the far right. He said he wanted officials researching the cause of gang-based exploitation to leave no stone unturned, which, considering they're trying to hide it now with reports that it was Sir Philip Ratnam and of course the civil service trying to hide it and Priti Patel trying to get it released, which is apparently the reason for the beef between them. We don't know for sure, these are just speculation at the moment, and maybe we will never really know. But he plans to take the government to court, so maybe it will come out there. The review came after grooming gangs were convicted in Huddersfield, Oxford and Rotherham. But the Independent reported last month that the government was refusing to release the research, saying it was not in the public's interest in response to the publication's Freedom of Information request. And that little sentence there just shows how incompetent and against the British public the BBC are. The Independent reported on it last month and we're only bothering to do it now. Something like 3 odd weeks after it was actually first reported on by the Independent, which I covered at the time. The BBC has been too busy running around moaning about nonsense. The petition on the UK Government and Parliament Petitions website reads, "We, the British public, demand the release of the official research on grooming gangs undertaken by the government in full." Sajid Javid promised the review as Home Secretary in July 2018, pledging that there would be no no-go areas of inquiry. And he might have been right, but the whole report, it seems, is a no-go area for the public to see. Likely because of the uproar it's going to cause when it comes out. Because as it stands, not too many people, I think, know that the report has been hidden, or in many cases, that the grooming gangs was even a thing in this country. You will be surprised how many people literally don't know nothing about it. Partly thanks to snivelling shitweasels like the BBC, ITV and Sky News who refuse to report on it. I will not let cultural or political sensitivities get in the way of understanding the problem and doing something about it, he said at the time. Another petition calling that's the change.org petition, we don't need to bother reading about that, it gained 13,000 signatures as I've pointed out before. The Home Office said child sexual abuse was a sickening crime and offenders will face the full force of the law. No they won't. Like I said earlier about my video yesterday, which was talking about 3 grooming gang convicts who had lost their British citizenship, yet 18 months later were still walking around the streets of Manchester. So I would say they have avoided the full force of the law, wouldn't you? We're pursuing work on a number of fronts to understand the characteristics of group-based offending and the context in which it occurs, it said in a statement. No, you weren't supposed to be doing that on group-based offending, you were supposed to be doing it on grooming gangs and the characteristics and context surrounding that. Not overall group-based offending, we're not talking about the mafia here. This is groups of men, mainly from Pakistani origin, raping young girls. It needs to be stopped. Pull your finger out of your arse and get the job done. New sentencing laws will also ensure the most serious violent and sexual offenders spend time in prison that matches the severity of their crimes, protecting victims and giving the public confidence in the criminal justice system. Well, given the fact there's people who have lost their citizenship and still walk around 18 months later for these crimes, I'm not really trusting the government or the criminal justice system on that. Too busy sending the old bill after someone who posted a mean tweet on Twitter. So, as with the BBC, I guess it's better late than never, though this piss poor article is not really enough to get it out there to the masses. They need to report on this on the BBC News channels, BBC One, 6 o'clock news, 10 o'clock news, every single news programme that they show, this story needs to be reported on. Instead, they're focused solely on human malware. Maybe we should consider ourselves lucky that we even got an article about it on their website. Now, like I said, the Daily Star had also reported on it on the 10th of March. And I didn't see this until last night, mainly because it was well hidden within the news cycle, buried down by a bunch of worthless crap that these outlets constantly post. But I suppose, well done for getting it out there, and they still managed to beat the BBC. It headlines, "Secret report on UK grooming gangs could be made public after outcry. More than 100,000 people have signed an official petition calling for the report to be published." And here it says 4 of the men jailed for raping girls as young as 13 in Rochdale face being deported. They should have already been deported if you ask me. The government's refusal to publish a secret probe into the characteristics of grooming gangs could be debated by MPs. More than 100,000 people have signed an official petition calling for the report to be published. It could strong-arm ministers after they claimed there was no public interest in the review. Sajid Javid pledged the investigation when he was Home Secretary, as we already know. He revealed convicted grooming gangs had been disproportionately from a Pakistani background, something you will notice was heavily omitted from the BBC's article. The MP said at the time, "I will not let cultural or political sensitivities get in the way of understanding the problem and doing something about it," which is what we heard on the other article there. Whitehall chiefs were ordered to explore the particular context and characteristics of grooming gangs, but the government later backtracked and claimed the work was only for internal use. Yeah, it was either the government or the civil service, one or the two, or maybe a combination of them both. I've already said about the reports relating to Priti Patel and Sir Philip Ratnam regarding this story. We don't know if they're true, like I said. Victims of the Rotherham sexual abuse scandal slammed the government for making empty promises, and me and my viewers are also slamming them for it too. Officers ignored the sexual abuse of at least 1,400 children by Pakistani groups in South Yorkshire over fears they would be called racist. Yeah, and it wasn't just officers, you can't just blame the police. There were social services councillors and apparently MPs that were involved in covering this up, in the name of diversity. Because even 30 to 50-year-old men sharing their paedophilic culture with your children is okay in the name of diversity to some of these scumbags. The petition states something we already know, and here is the bunch of scumbags there, mostly from Pakistani origin, with the white guy sitting there, joining the scum. Worthless bunch of fuck pigs at the end of the day. And while this does show that it is mostly Pakistani or Muslim men, this just goes to show that being a dirty nonce cunt is not confined to just one race. This sort of shit happens within every race, though I'm not sure it's on the industrial scale that we have seen here. And the rest of it just goes on to talk about what we read the other day. Shadow Home Secretary Diane Abbott said there must be no more cover-ups around these horrific crimes. And it's for once something I would actually agree with. Now, at least slowly but surely, media organisations are reporting on it, even if it's not on the TV, which is what we really want and need. But as it stands, this is really not enough, and we need to keep pressuring the media, journalists, MPs, everyone into talking about this and getting it out there into the mainstream. Obviously, like I said, human malware is not helping that situation, but what can you do about that? Now before I go, I've started doing live streams and uploading gaming content on my second channel. If you would like to come and join me for a live stream to chat in real time, have an interest in gaming related content on YouTube, or just want to follow me over there because you are a legend, the link will be down in the video description below and as a pinned comment. I hope to see you all there. Now as always, before I go, I want to thank our PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar and YouTube members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors. Slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going and we are glad to be going. We're off.